Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Fitness Uncovered podcast. Today we are here to tell you why after the Christmas, right after the holidays, you should get off your ass and start moving in the treadmill. We're here to talk about cardio, the topic that everybody hates.
Yes.
But that is unfortunately necessary.
Yes.
For many reasons.
Yes. Everybody avoids, not everybody actually, there are people that love cardio, but most people, especially people that are into strength training, seem to want to avoid doing cardio all the time. By the way, I think we should address
the piece of
on the table.
So it's the holidays. Okay, we are trainers. We are also human beings, and we get gifted stuff. And what was it? Your client that?
Yes, one of my clients. Yeah, very very nice.
We shouldn't name it. We should just like point so the people that are just listening to it are curious about what's going on here. But this just so you know, this is the secret that may completely discredit all your beliefs about us.
That we actually do eat sweets.
Yeah.
Go check the
And
YouTube.
have normal lives.
We indulge as well.
Yeah.
We indulge as well.
Cool. We are. By the way, we will do cardio after this
Yes.
to
100%.
burn the calories of all these cookies. Right.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Cardiovascular training. Topic number 1.
Yeah. Let's start with what are we gonna start?
The tool of weight loss.
Yeah.
Well, but that seems to me like that's the most popular way that most people think that cardio will be used for. And we're here to say why cardio, if it should or it should not be used as a tool for weight loss.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's emphasis on tool, right? Because whenever you're using any of these methods, any method for weight loss, strength training, muscle building, it's a tool. And that's how you got to look at it. I think cardio is exactly that. It's a tool, not necessarily what I would prioritize as my only weight loss tool. And we'll talk about exactly why that is. So
how could you use a cardio to facilitate the weight loss?
And I think we'll get into this a little bit more after, but let's talk about why it wouldn't be necessarily the best tool to use for weight loss. And I think that, especially because of what we just said about calories, I think most people do cardio thinking about burning calories, right? So how much cardio can I do? And that equates to X amount of calories. And that equates to how much I can eat if I burn those calories, or how much can I create a deficit in my calories if I burn that many calories doing cardio.
Seems to me like that's like the entry level thought process. It's like I need to burn the fat first in the treadmill so then I can go strength train and build muscle after.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of people seem to think like that's a precondition for muscle building is losing fat.
Right.
Running in the treadmill.
Exactly. It's just a lot of these classes that you go to, like let's say like an Orange Theory, where it's like very cardio based, or you go to like a certain class, let's say spinning class, they always make you wear a heart rate monitor. And so that heart rate monitor, it shows you how many calories you've been burning throughout the whole session. And so in an hour, you could burn, and I'm saying this in quotations because the actual heart rate monitor cannot measure how many calories you're burning. It's just a theoretical.
It's based on a formula, right?
Based on a formula, theoretical. If your heart rate is beating at a certain amount of time per, beats per minute for this amount of time, then you're burning this amount of calories, because calories are a unit of energy and measurement. So people just end up going to these classes, and now they're trying to break their own calorie record. Each time that they go, they're trying to do more and more and more, and so it makes them feel like they're actually burning more calories. But in reality, what's actually happening is that they're getting more efficient at not burning calories, because the better cardiovascular shape that you are, then the less calories you burn, because you are in better shape, and so your body knows how to preserve energy better.
So you're telling me that by the 10th class of Orange Theory, I'm burning less calories than the first one?
The screen says you burn 700.
Every time?
Every time. But in reality,
you're probably burning less.
I'm just throwing out a number, but you're burning less. It might be like 300, 350, something like that.
Yeah.
It's a good thing that happens, by the way. It's not that this is not a bad thing, because that's how the body adapts.
If anything, that means that your body is good at adapting to stimulus.
Right. That's the same process that we use, the same principle that we use when we strength train and we try to build muscle. We adapt to stimulus, and we get better at doing whatever it is that we do often. If you are always on the treadmill, if let's say, like they were saying, on day one you burn 200 calories when you do 30 minutes or whatever, on the treadmill, that second day you're going to burn a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less because you're getting more efficient at doing that very thing that you're training for at that point. So it becomes a losing battle. That's what it really is, because you end up having to either do more or, you know, compensate by eating less the more cardio that you do if you're using that for weight loss. This is not, we're not saying that you should not do cardio, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but the approach that you take towards cardio is important, because then you get the yo-yo dieting, right? Because if you are doing a ton of cardio and you're adding more cardio and adding more cardio and adding more cardio and adding more cardio to get to that weight loss goal, you are very likely to burn out, or you're very likely to hit a point where you can't fit any more cardio into your program because either you don't have the time or it's just way too intense and you end up, you know, not having the energy. So cardiovascular training, and this is in the name, is training for your heart. So there are amazing benefits to doing cardio. However, using it as a weight loss tool is not I don't want to say smart and make people feel dumb if they're doing cardio, but it's not the most.
It shouldn't be your
strategic-
first option.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not the
yeah,
best
yeah.
strategy.
It's something that
to
you
use.
you can add on as a one more layer that will help you be in a caloric deficit eventually, in conjunction with everything else that you're already doing.
Exactly.
Basically,
Key word that Nick just said, caloric deficit. That's what's going to allow you to burn body fat, lose body fat.
Mm-hmm.
correct.
Right.
If
Yeah.
that's not aiding your caloric deficit, it's like
I think that, you know,
pointless.
when it comes to cardio, people like to use it a lot because it's very easy to get into.
Mhm.
You know, it's not, for example, even though people don't think that running is very technical, running is very technical.
Absolutely.
But it's easier to get into running because you see everybody else doing it and you think you're not going to get hurt.
There's no barrier to
There's
entry.
no barrier. Right. And so people usually choose cardio first because if they see that weight training is more technically based, like a bench press, a squat, a deadlift, like, and there's a lot of weight. There's still a misconception that, you know, a lot of weight is going to hurt you or you're going to get too bulky and things like that. And also it's more complicated, right? Because you got to write down a split with how many exercises you have to do or you're going to do, or the repetitions and the sets, as
Yeah.
opposed to just cardio. You just go outside
Exactly.
and you just run for a certain amount of time.
Right. You don't need a membership to a
Right.
gym. You don't need to hire anybody. You could just.
You need shoes
outside
and
and
outdoors
Right.
and
just get out
decent
there.
weather.
Yeah.
I guess.
But so yeah, and the thing is, I think cardio does help a lot of people initially lose body weight. So when they hear these type of things, they're like, "What do you mean? I lost 30 pounds doing cardio?" What did you have to do to maintain that afterwards is the question, because you either have to continue doing exactly the regimen that got you there in order for you to maintain that deficit, or you have to starve yourself afterwards, because another thing that happens is when you become that efficient with calories, then you become efficient with calories, which means that you're not going to be burning a lot of calories as a engine whenever when you're just laying around, where we've talked about this in previous podcasts about the major part of your burned calories throughout the day is not going to be the manual burning that you do. So even if you spend 4 hours trying to burn calories on the treadmill, that's not going to make up even 20% of the calories that you're going to burn throughout the day. What's going to make up most of that is just the body that you have and how to maintain the attributes that body has. And the best thing to do with that is having a lot of muscle. Obviously.
Basically, it's way easier to gain calories than it is to lose calories.
Yeah.
Like way easier.
Yeah.
By the way, having a lot of muscle does not mean that you're a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
As
No.
long as you have a lot of muscle.
Yeah, you can have.
Or an efficient nervous system.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
Even having a lifestyle that is conducive to building a lot of muscle itself, that type of lifestyle, meaning strength training, promotes an inefficient metabolism, and that's what you want. An inefficient metabolism means that your metabolism burns a lot of calories as if it has.
Let's explain what metabolism is too, because
Yes.
people throw that word around a lot, and a lot of people don't even know what that means.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it, man.
So basically, the metabolism, that's the word that people describe, is the total amount of energy that your body wastes throughout the day doing everything that it does. And that includes breathing, it includes chewing, it includes sleeping, it includes all your hormonal function, it includes thinking. All these things, they all waste calories. The conjunction of everything that wastes all your calories throughout your day that is where your metabolism is.
Right.
There are multiple components to your metabolism, some of them being passive, like your like sleeping, sitting around, just organ function. Some of them are active, like your exercise, like NEAT, which is non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, which is basically means you are moving around as I'm moving around my hands as I speak right now. These things all require energy.
An interesting fact, I don't know how many people know about this, but when you sleep, you burn a lot of calories. A lot. And the reason why is because when you sleep, that is when your body goes into that process of recovery. And that process of recovery and repairing your tissues, that's where it's very expensive for the body to do. So you actually burn a lot of calories when you're doing sleeping, dreaming, doing nothing instead of like doing all this cardio that, you know, feels hard to do.
Yeah.
So
Active sleeping. Active sleeping.
after this, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So,
One answer. Good tool or bad tool for weight loss?
cardio is not a great tool for weight loss. I would not
Jose?
say it is a great tool for weight loss.
It depends. Well, it depends on who you are, because like if you've never done anything, like if you just being a couch potato for the past, I don't know, 12 years, and then all of a sudden you go out and start doing cardio, you are gonna lose some weight, right? Because now you went from doing nothing to doing something, but it's not gonna be a long-term tool,
Right.
you know. And actually, if you're a couch potato, I would recommend starting out with weight training first. Hire a trainer, or you know, this YouTube now, you can educate yourself, and that will still burn calories. At the end of the day, to lose weight, you have to burn calories and be in a calorie deficit. So
Yeah, I do want to elaborate on that answer, because it's not just that it's not a good tool for weight loss. I want to explain why it's not a good tool, but it's something you should do if you're trying to lose weight. That I will absolutely say. If you're trying to lose weight, you should be doing cardio, but it is not because it is going to help you directly to lose weight. It's not going to be the best tool.
It's not about the calories that you burn doing it. It's about the other effects that it has on your
Exactly.
body
Right.
that make you lose weight.
right. Which is what we're going to discuss in this podcast, which is cardio is meant for other things that will benefit you in the long term.
Exactly.
I think that's the main reason we wanted to address this topic first, because that's what everybody thinks when we first say cardio, specifically the people that are most likely to listen to this, which is the people that are already getting into the gym already in their first few years. And that's their mentality towards cardio is, let me try to lose some weight.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
So, cardio training.
Yeah. So,
How would you use it? How specifically would you program it, the use of cardio, in order to facilitate weight loss for someone?
If somebody is
And make it inclusive in a weight training scenario as well,
right,
like
of
with
course,
everything else.
of course. If somebody is trying to lose weight, they should be setting themselves up for success.
Hold on.
What
sorry to interrupt. Specify weight, because it has to
Mhm.
because weight is
anything?
anything.
Yeah.
You know, water,
Right.
muscle, and
So if
we're
somebody's trying to burn body fat
body
or
fat.
change
There you
their
go.
body
Okay,
composition,
cool. I like that better
right?
too.
To become leaner. If somebody's trying to become leaner, they should do cardio, because it is a system within their body that is going to facilitate any other process from happening, whether that is muscle building, work capacity, better pulmonary health, more NEAT, having more energy so that you could do more things throughout the day that are going to ultimately help you have a more conducive lifestyle towards having a engine that is more costly, talking about that metabolism again. So cardio gives you so many benefits that are going to help that weight loss be way easier and go way smoother when that happens. Now, that weight loss or that composition change should happen through mostly nutrition. Okay. We've talked about nutrition very much in previous podcasts, so if you want to know exactly more about that, you can...
I believe it's episode 4.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
that we
it-
did a whole
episode 4.
podcast just about nutrition. Strongly recommend. That's probably one of the best episodes we've done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so, since nutrition is the main driver of body fat loss, when it comes to cardio, what is it going to do for your training and for you long term if you implement it?
It's going to build a better cardiovascular system, and that's why it's called cardio, actually. So a more intricate capillary network, a more robust system in general. It's going to give you better blood flow, better oxygenation to all systems of the body, including your muscles, organs, everything that you need. So your recovery is going to improve. Absolutely. I mean, just so many different things. The nutrient distribution that you're going to have. So if you are eating something that is going to fuel your body, if you have a system that is more efficient at distributing those nutrients throughout your body, you're just going to reap more benefits from that. The absorption processes, everything's going to be better. What would you say, Nick, is one of your favorite things to program cardio for?
Well, I didn't really want to answer what I program it for, but how I use it to structure with my clients specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically with my clients because I train mostly strength athletes. Athletes that are mostly looking to build their strength and their size in the gym. Olympic lifters, powerlifters, and bodybuilders. And so, ideally, for them specifically, I would pick one day out of their training week that they're not doing a lot of resistance training that day. It's usually minimal work, maybe some core stabilization, maybe some mobility, and I would add the cardio in there with it, mostly to improve work capacity and recovery, to improve blood flow, and to make sure that they can sustain a high volume training. Specifically for bodybuilders, they can sustain high volume training throughout the entire training block. I think that is a great strategy for cardio because you shouldn't be training 7 days a week anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get into if you can get in the gym 2 extra days to get in some cardio done, that's going to aid you a lot.
Yep.
So what you guys are saying is that I'm not going to lose my gains when I do cardio.
Damn, man. That's...
If anything,
Wow.
if you're not doing any cardio and all you're doing is training to build muscle or training to get stronger, you could be limiting yourself of how many gains you could be getting from not doing the cardio. It's very common, I think. I see clients coming in when I first start working with them that it's not that they're weak, that they're failing at the sets. It's just that they're gassing out.
You gassed out. Yeah.
They're gassing out through the sets, and they can't get to that threshold where the signal is as effective as it could be if you're completing a set that is actually going to take your muscle to failure. But if your cardiovascular system is just shot because you're not doing any cardio, then you can't even get to that threshold that you need to get to.
You know, I know some people that don't get to a 20 feet radius of any cardio machine and they already think they're going to lose their gains. You know, so it's like not the case, man.
Yeah. I think a lot of people also, with what you're saying, with losing the gains, that there seems to be this thought that if you do cardio, you're going to lose muscle.
Where do you think that came from?
Well,
Why is that popular?
Because I think there is some truth
There's some truth to it.
to doing cardio because it's a conflicting signal technically.
But it's because it's... Well, go ahead.
No, I want you to
So
go ahead.
the thing is that people look at the bodies of the marathon runners, right?
So people that
They
are
li- they
focused
like to
just
com-
on cardio.
They like to people are just focused just on cardio, and they like to compare how those bodies look compared to the bodybuilder look. And so, since marathon runners look very skinny, people are like, oh, since this guy all he does is cardio, then he's losing a bunch of muscle mass. And it's true. If you're not training, if you're not doing any weight training and you're doing a bunch of cardio, your body's not going to maintain muscle that it doesn't need.
Because there's no signal.
Because there's no signal
Requiring
to
it
maintain
to-
it.
yeah.
And it's very expensive to maintain. So your body is always trying to conserve energy. It's not going to keep something that's going to waste a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but marathon runners, when you do endurance sports, that's mostly slow twitch muscle fibers, which are way less hypertrophic, meaning they grow a lot less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your fast
Yeah.
twitches, which is used in the gym for resistance training, mostly are the ones that grow more and that show more.
Yeah.
But now all these myths have been busted. Do you guys follow this guy named Nick Bear?
Mm.
Well, look him up. He is a bodybuilder that does marathons.
Wow.
And the
Does
guy
he
looks,
look like...
Yeah, he looks amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And he actually continues to improve in marathon times, even though he still weight trains 2 or 3 times a week. So it depends on which part of the season he's at. Like, if he's not doing a marathon anytime soon, he does more weight training.
See, man, I love that, dude.
And he does the maintenance of the marathon training, right?
Yeah.
But then when the marathon training is coming, a marathon race is coming, he starts dialing down the training for the weight training. He still does it 2 or 3 times a week at most.
That probably
low
also keeps him sensitive to those types of training. That's like...
And then he
amazing.
ups the volume for the marathon running. The guy, I mean, his training is freaking insane. He wakes up at 4 in the morning and does his mobility training in the beginning to get his body prepared for the running. And then he goes out to run for, I don't know, an hour and a half. comes back home, breakfast, goes to work. After work, then he does his weight training. So it's pretty intense. You can juggle both, but it's a lot of dedication that it takes.
Yeah,
And I'm a big fan when people separate their training year into segments of certain focus on certain things, and the later half of the year of another focus on another thing. I think that's a great recipe to prevent injuries, to progress in multiple things at once, to make sure that all the bars of your progress are progressing evenly. I think it's a
To keep
great
things
strategy.
entertaining.
I think it's awesome, and I think a
Yeah.
lot more people should have this more long-term approach, as in seeing at least from a yearly approach. What is it? A macro cycle approach to it.
And it's funny that you say that it synthesizes him from the bodybuilding training, and it's true. When he finishes a marathon race,
His body responds.
when he comes back into doing his bodybuilding training and he starts eating a lot again, his body just blows up. Like he'll put on like a good 27 pounds in a month.
And imagine the
Wow.
amount of volume that he's able to put in
Because of the cardio.
and the frequency because of just the
Work
cardio
capacity?
the work
Yeah.
capacity. So and
I'm a
let's,
big
let's
fan.
talk about
Love
that.
shit.
Let's talk about that. I think
Yeah.
it's important because we've said that word a couple of times now. But
the work capacity?
The work capacity,
Okay.
right? I think a lot of people maybe not are too familiar with what that is. So work capacity is it kind of logically makes sense. It's how much work you can do within a certain period of time, right? So if your work capacity is low, then you can't do too much work in a certain
In a certain
period of
amount
time.
of time.
I think a lot of people don't understand how important that really is, but I'm going to paint it in a picture where I think they'll understand now. If you can recover 30 seconds quicker per set, compound that into all your sets in the gym for every single workout, for every single week, you're spending less time in the gym, which means you're spending more time recovering, which means you're more ready for more workouts quicker. Compound that into weeks to months to years. That's a lot of time, man. 30 seconds once is not a lot.
Yep.
But think of it like hundreds of times.
Yep.
That's hours. That's days. Think of that in like the span of 10 years. How much more work you're getting done.
Exactly.
Right.
Compounding.
To add up to that, both you and I train powerlifters.
As well, yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
mostly.
but, every time, the whole joke on social media is like when a powerlifter is doing more than 5 reps per set, they call it cardio, right? Because
It feels
They
like
whip
it.
out the
it
lawn
feels
chair.
like that. Like doing squats and deadlifts for more than 5 reps definitely gets your heart rate up. And
It feels like a sprint.
it feels like a
It
sprint.
feels like a sprint.
And so what happens is that if they don't have a good cardiovascular system, what Nick is explaining,
Yeah.
like they're gonna have to rest instead of 2 minutes, they're gonna have to rest 5 minutes. But not because the muscles cannot handle the weight, but
Mhm.
because their heart rate is still up after 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to put in more volume into your training and you cannot recover from a single set, it's gonna come a point that you're going to plateau. You
Yeah.
see, every single time that we're having this podcast, we pinpoint many ways in which people can plateau. Because it's not just the program that's going to plateau you, but it could be lack of nutrition, it could be lack of mobility, it could be lack of cardiovascular system training, it could be so many things. It could be a muscle that is lagging or whatever.
Mhm.
And most people go to that. Oh, I'm weak on my bench press, my bottom part. Oh, it must be that I'm weak on my chest.
Yeah.
And they just like, okay, let's work on more chest.
It's
But-
the unidimensional
Right.
view
Right.
of training.
right.
Yeah, I think people need to realize that all of the attributes, all of the modalities, like you might have your favorite modality, which might be strength training or it might be bodybuilding, but every single modality feeds the other modalities, meaning
Your body works
Exactly.
together.
endurance
All of your
training
systems.
helps bodybuilding, bodybuilding helps strength training helps explosive movement. Everything feeds each other if programmed well, obviously, if you're integrating these things properly. But if you're only doing one thing, then the limiting factors are going to be the things that you're not doing. It's not that you're plateauing, like Jose is saying, because you're not doing enough. It's because you're not doing the things that are going to ultimately allow that progress to keep pushing forward.
I'm going to repeat what I repeat every episode almost and what I repeat on my social media all the time. You're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yes.
You're only as strong as the lowest bar in all your attribute bars. You need to raise them all up. And for the love of God, powerlifters, and even if you just strength train, that don't even have to compete in powerlifting. You're an athlete. You're expected to perform in within all your systems to be able to progress.
Mm-hmm.
Treat yourself like an athlete. Don't treat yourself just like a couch potato that just lifts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, even strength training even benefits cardio, like and endurance athletes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have a lot of triathlon people and marathon runners, and they will be constantly injured because of the overuse of doing too much cardio. Their knees will be hurting, their feet will be hurting, their lower backs, even their hips, because they're putting so much volume into their muscles, but they're not strengthening those muscles to put up with that kind of volume.
Yeah.
And so when they come to me and I start strengthening those areas, all of a sudden they can now run for a longer period of time, and all of a sudden they can break their time records, and now they can stay healthier for longer. So it's always a full circle. Everything should be trained. Now, like we discussed before, if you're doing a certain sport, then you bias towards that sport more.
Specifically during the on-season, close to your
on-season,
competition. Yeah.
Right, close to the competition. But during the off-season, put your sport into maintenance and raise up the levels of other places in which you're
Deficient.
Yeah. And if you don't have a competition, you can kind of just play around with it however you want. Just making sure you're switching it up as often as you can. All right, not as often as you can, but as periodically as you can, I'd say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, cardio I think is also one of the most available modalities possible because there are so many forms of it. So it's not like you can get bored of one. If you get bored of running, you don't like running.
Go swim.
Go
Ride a
swim.
bike or ride a skateboard.
Ride a bike. Yeah. And we'll talk about even more ways.
Right. So, well, do you guys want to talk about it now? Or?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about that, because people think that cardio is just going out on a run.
Right.
And yes,
It can be,
but your heart is inside of your body. It doesn't know what you're doing
Right.
on the outside. Like your heart is just like, okay, this is a lot of work. I need to pump a lot of blood so that I can give oxygen to these muscles that are working.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be running, you could be biking, you could be doing weight training,
playing a sport.
playing a sport, and your heart is doing the job that it needs to do in order to send the oxygen that those muscles need for whatever task you're performing. So
Yeah. And going back to,
So it could be fun.
I think this is going to tie something together that I don't even know if we finished answering with why cardio is thought to lose muscle for people if you do cardio.
Mm-hmm.
So the signal that you're sending when you're doing cardio to the body, if you're, let's say you're going out for 30 minutes, 1 hour runs every day, you're telling the body that you need it to be an efficient machine. You need it to not waste a lot of calories while you're doing this, yet you need to be, efficient at this. So
Are you
if
talking specifically about running?
I'm talking about any steady state cardio type of activity, any activity that you're going to be doing for a long period of time.
That is the same activity.
Right, that is the same activity where you're elevating your heart rate to, significant amount. The reason why that's going to or it has a connotation of it's going to pare down muscle is because you don't need muscle to do that. If anything, the more muscle that you have, the more expensive that activity is going to be. Expensive meaning the more energy it is going to require to do that. So if your body thinks that it doesn't need this muscle because you're doing more of the cardio than you're doing of the strength training or whatever activity requires that muscle, then it's going to decide, I don't need so much of this muscle and I'm going to get rid of some of that.
Mm-hmm.
That is if you're not sending that muscle building signal. So when people are doing activities, you're communicating with your body, telling it what you want it to adapt to. So the execution of the activity is more important than whatever the general societal thought of that activity is. Meaning if you're on a treadmill, you think you're doing cardio. Or if you're under a bar, you're doing strength training. So it doesn't necessarily mean one or the other. It's the way that you execute those activities that's going to send a signal to adapt to either building muscle or adapt to being more efficient at what you're doing. Because when you're building muscle, what you want is inefficiency. You want to be as inefficient as possible.
Because that taxes your body the most.
Because that taxes your body the most, and it's going to send a signal that you need more fiber. You need more muscle, you need more strength. Therefore, your body's going to adapt accordingly.
This is something actually I want to mention because this ties into running. We're going to talk about the modalities later, but the concept is what I want to explain now. I actually had to talk about this pretty extensively on my social media recently, is the law of accommodation. What the heck that means. The more you do of something, the better you get at it. That includes strength training, that includes running, that includes bench pressing, that includes swimming,
Sitting on the couch.
sitting on the couch. You're going to get better at that single activity.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why runners, if you just do cardio just for running, over time you get better at it. Your body gets more efficient, meaning it spends less calories to do the same amount of miles that you were doing once before. Which is why, by the way, bodybuilders should switch their exercises up in the gym so that they can prevent law of accommodation and build more muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And powerlifters.
And powerlifters, depending on this season, because during
Depend-
closer to competition,
right.
you want to actually accommodate.
Right.
You want to do the opposite. But anyways, for certain types of athletes, like strength athletes, it would be good to do different modalities of cardios throughout time, because then their body never accommodates or gets good at that modality of cardio. 1 week you're going to swim, 1 week you're going to run, 1 week you're going to bike, just because you can keep pushing your cardiovascular system and your body in different ways with the same amount of time.
Yep.
As opposed to someone that's more endurance oriented for the same modality of cardio, like for example running, a good strategy would be to run more, because then you get more efficient at it. If you're trying to get better at running, run more. If you're trying to get better at improving your cardiovascular system, do different modalities.
Mm-hmm.
Different modalities and staying within the correct heart rate training zones.
Yeah.
Because
Which we'll
that's
be
very important.
touching about pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could explain. I
Gonna-
think this.
gonna go ahead?
The heart
Yeah.
rates, the
Yeah.
zones.
Yeah.
So there's different types of zones. There's zone 1 all the way through 5, and so these zones determine how your body's going to respond to the cardiovascular task that you're putting.
Is
it
the
through.
zone the amount of beats per minute?
Yeah, beats per minute. So the higher the beats per minute, the more intense the cardio will be, and the lower the beats per minute, then
The less intense.
the less intense the cardio will be. And so, and the thing is that if you are trying, for example, if you're trying to improve your recovery, you're not gonna do zone 5, okay?
Mhm.
Like that's
Yeah.
that's
That
really
would be
high.
like an RPE 10 single
That's
for
like
powerlifters.
that's like 90% to 100% of your heart rate,
Yeah.
okay?
Capacity.
Capacity. And so at that time, you're gonna be doing HIIT training. In HIIT training, you're gonna be using your muscles very rapidly, and it's gonna be very intense. So if you just did like a 1 rep max squat the day before, or like a heavy single, and then your next day is a rest day, but you're doing cardio and you end up doing a zone 5, you're gonna trash your legs even more. And then if you have to deadlift a couple days later, you're gonna perform very horribly.
Is there any
Yeah.
sport that you'd consider a zone 5 sport?
Not all the time. You cannot stay in zone 5 for a long period of time.
CrossFit, perhaps.
CrossFit, but you still have to rest in between. Like if you go
but-
too hard on the zone 5, you're gonna have to rest a good amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
at least like a minute and a half,
Or
Yeah.
puke?
or puke.
Yeah.
Yeah, your body won't allow you to be in that zone for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And so, but if you use, let's say, a zone 1, so you do your squats on Monday, and then your bench press on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday you have an off day in between your lifting days, and you use a zone 1. That zone 1 is used to get blood flow to your body, and like Andres alluded to, that blood flow is going to send nutrients. It's going to send oxygen to the areas that have been trained through the whole body, and it's going to allow you to recover faster. So that when you come back on Thursday to train, you're better prepared to hit your next lifts or whatever you have planned.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And by the way, to talk a little bit more about that blood flow, the more cardio you do, you actually build a more intricate capillary network. You build more capillaries.
What does that mean? What is capillaries?
So you have arteries, obviously, that go from your heart to different parts of your body, and those arteries turn into capillaries, which is what actually allows the transfer of nutrients, oxygen, and all of that sciencey stuff to happen in the muscles, in the organs, and all of these things. So the more capillaries that you have, the more of this transactions that are going to be happening, and the easier that they become, the more frequent that they become, and the less resistance that there is for them to occur.
And why is that good?
Because you're going to have, again, better recovery and better absorption. So those nutrients that you're eating, or the air that you're breathing throughout your session of training, is going to be better delivered. It's going to be delivered quicker, which is going to allow you to recover quicker, which is going to allow you to get into your training more effectively, go further into your training, and really allow, if the goal is to build muscle or strength train, really allow the muscle and the strength to be the limiting factors.
Mm-hmm.
and not anything else. Not lack of oxygen, not all of these things.
Which, by the way, that's exactly what you want.
Yes.
Because then
Exactly.
you make sure that you're pushing your muscles
Mhm.
instead. Cool.
Exactly.
Awesome. Are we done with the zones? Or do you want to go
Well,
over
we-
all of them?
We can go into details with
Because we
with
already
the
did
zone.
all the other topics. We can go ahead and do the zones.
Yeah, so I basically went a little bit over the first the the two extremes, either zone 1 or
Zone
or
five.
Zone
Five.
5.
Yeah.
And so from zones 1 through 3, you're gonna be using more body fat as fuel, or your body's gonna use body fat as fuel.
Does this mean that you're going to
Now-
burn fat and get skinny?
Mm, If you're on a calorie deficit, yes. This is a very confusing topic, actually.
That's why I'm
Because-
asking these questions,
Yeah,
by the way.
because you will read an article, and you will look at that article and be like, oh, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, we burn body fat. Let's do it. But you're gonna stay eating the same crap, and eating the same amount of calories. Just because you're burning fat does not mean that you're going to get rid of that fat. It's if you're burning it, but if you're eating, you're gonna restore it back.
Right. So
You
we
get me?
talked about this in the last podcast where we started differentiating body fat from dietary fat.
Yeah,
right?
right.
So if you're using body fat, but you're just replacing it with dietary fat.
So adipose tissue and triglycerides.
Right.
Right.
They're two different things, but
Exactly.
they're both called fat.
Right.
So people are confused.
And the
basically.
same thing with all of these things that tell you burning body fat. I think even the Celsius says that it's a body fat.
Accelerates
burner.
metabolism and burns body fat.
Right. So it doesn't burn body fat. Doesn't mean that if you drink that, you're going to burn fat just sitting here. It means that it's a stimulant that is going to maybe suppress your hunger a little bit, and it might set you up for an easier caloric deficit.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. However, you could absolutely overeat and not create that caloric deficit, and you're not going to burn any body fat total, because we're talking about a balance, right? You are burning body fat. You're always burning body fat because you use some of the body fat as energy whenever you're doing things.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a balance. You're always also just you're not just maintaining ever. You're either building or you're losing.
Mm-hmm.
So the body's always adapting.
Yeah, there's no such thing as maintenance.
Yeah. We can try to stay within a certain level of fitness,
Right.
level of whatever, insert
Plus,
anything here.
plus or minus 10-15% of
Exactly.
of your peak or something like that.
Exactly.
So yeah, the first 3 zones are fat is used as the fuel for you to perform your cardiovascular task, and it has to be for a certain period of time. Like doing cardio for 5 minutes is not gonna be very effective. You want to do it for a long period of time, more than 20 minutes. And then we have this zone 4 and 5, which will be mostly glycolytic, which means you'll be using your glycogen, which means you'll be using your carbohydrates. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because these zones 4 and 5, your body's gonna, since you're gonna use those as fuel, it's because they're faster to grab for the body, for
More
the nervous
available.
system, more available. Okay, and so
So when you go lower in intensity, your body has the time to go grab the energy from somewhere else.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly, which will be the fat burning zone. So
Mhm.
that's why these 3 zones are very popular amongst group training.
I think you even see them in the treadmill when you're on
Yeah.
the treadmill. It even shows you a
Yeah.
little chart. of
Like
the
when you go to
zones.
Orange Theory, it's like you want to stay in the fat burning zone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember
And
that.
so they want you to stay within a certain range of your percentage of your heart rate. And so I don't know if you guys want to go into the detail of the percentage of each.
Just go over it real quick.
Yeah. So
Yep.
so
Just for
zone
those-
1 is 50 to 60%. So as you can see, it's pretty low intensity. Just like it's like lifting.
What would you be at rest?
What would you want to be
At rest.
at rest?
Yeah.
Is a better question. And normal, I mean, in terms of like what they're gonna tell you if you go to the doctor, if you're below 60, they tell you you have bradycardia. I believe it's below 60.
Mhm.
If
Beat-
your
beats
heart
per minute.
beats per minute,
Yeah.
right. If
So
you're
by the way, your Apple Watch can measure this.
yes,
If you're wondering.
yes. Or if you, I mean, it's very easy to do it manually as well. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not gonna explain it.
we're
here.
not gonna explain that here.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So 60 as a low end.
Of your
Is it good?
heart rate max.
This I'm talking about resting right now.
Resting.
So rest
heart
where
rate.
would you would want to be resting, right? Is
Oh,
that
60 beats per minute
60 beats
yeah.
per minute would be a good
and less.
low
By the
end.
way, important. How do they know what their max is? That's very important.
We'll get into that in a second. Let me
Do you wanna do
finish
the-
answering
do you wanna do
that.
the-
But so 60
okay.
to like 90 is probably around the high end of where you would want your resting
Mhm.
heart rate to be in the 90s. Yeah, above that, you are going to definitely need to be doing some cardio.
Right. You know what's interesting is there's people that are above. Most people that are overweight are in that 70, 80, 90 range.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty crazy because they don't see it, they don't think about it, but that means your heart is working very, very hard throughout your whole day. And imagine doing that for
Years.
decades and
Yeah.
years. And that's why those people are predisposed to having heart disease and cardiac arrest, because their heart is working so much all the time to pump blood around all that body fat that doesn't allow for the blood to get to the organs. And so that's why it's very important to stay at a healthy body weight range and to train your cardiovascular system so that your heart is always working. Your heart is always working, but at least it should be strong enough to do less pumps per minute to send the blood to the organs so that they can receive oxygen.
And this is, by the way, this is just with living.
It's just with
It
living.
excludes
Yeah.
any
Just with
physical
living.
activity whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And doing cardio, by the way, also trains the lungs. So it's the cardiopulmonary system that you're training essentially when you're doing cardio. You're not just training your heart. You're also training your ability to breathe better, more
Diaphragm, lungs.
more
More
effectively.
efficient. Yeah.
So, yes,
So
very
zone,
important.
zone 2 will be 60 to 70%. Zone 3, 70 to 80. Zone 4, 80 to 90. And then zone 5, 90 to 100%.
Yeah.
Of your heart rate
Max.
max. Yeah. And so how do you know your heart rate max? There's like different formulas now. Because like when I was in school, it was 220 minus your age.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's
I
say,
think that
yeah,
y-
go ahead.
I think
That's what I was going to say.
that's
How
still
you
what
find
it-
your max is
yeah.
that's what it is. That's what I learned in school in the
220
very
minus
recent
age.
semesters that I have taken.
It's where
Yeah.
that's what you want to base it off.
Yeah.
So 220 beats per minute minus
Minus
your age.
Yeah. So like if I'm 31 minus 220, that will be my heart rate max.
Yeah.
How
So 220 minus
220
31.
minus
Yeah.
31.
Yeah.
Which is what?
190 or
Math is hard.
199. 199.
199?
This is going to be on the internet.
199.
Titan, do the math.
What's it? What's
220 minus 31.
quick phone? You have a phone in your hand. Calculator.
I haven't done math.
I think it is.
Really, guys?
189. Isn't it 189?
How many dudes does it take to
189.
220 minus 31?
189.
Yeah.
189. So I was
I
close.
apologize.
Damn,
I
that was rough.
haven't done math since I graduated college. I just use a calculator now.
I know how to do bar math. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's probably
So-
why I
work
haven't
with
graduated
45s,
college.
25s, 10, 5s, and 2.5s.
Yeah. So my heart rate max is 189. If I want to train in zone 1, I want to do my recovery training. I would then multiply 189 times 0.5, which is 50%. So we'll do the math, because I don't know how to do that kind of math. So I will be, when I do my recovery, I will be at 95 beats per minute
Mm-hmm.
On average.
on average. Yeah. For 20 minutes plus. And you can do this for, I don't know, an hour, hour and a half, whatever you want to do it for.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically like a little walk for me.
Yeah.
Okay. But imagine a person that is overweight,
That could
that
be
is 31 years old, and at rest, they are already at 95. Does that mean that they're in recovery?
Nope. Absolutely not.
They are not, because their heart is just continuing to work and work and work all the time.
This is why I like RPE.
Yeah.
And RPE, for everybody at home, rate of perceived exertion. It just basically means how hard is something, how difficult is something.
Which, by the way, the RPE scale comes from endurance training,
Yes.
and it was moved into
strength
the
training.
strength training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, when we say overweight, you don't necessarily have to think about someone that has high percentage of body fat. It can also be someone that's overweight with muscle,
Yep.
like a bodybuilder that takes anabolic steroids, grew too big for his own body, for his own cardiovascular system, and his resting heart rate ends up being too high because of that. Hence why you see a lot of bodybuilders suffering with cardiovascular disease and,
yeah.
you know, even sometimes dying prematurely
Basically, their hearts and lungs do not have the strength
to keep up with their muscle.
to keep up with the amount of blood they got to send to those muscles.
Yeah.
Which obviously is extremely problematic.
Yeah.
You know,
I think also it is interesting and important to understand the difference between what you want to do when you're building, because the heart is a muscle, right? So when you're building muscle, skeletal muscle, meaning like bicep, chest, shoulders, back, legs, all that, and heart, because you don't want the same thing to happen. When you're training your heart, you don't want your heart to have hypertrophy. That's actually a bad thing. You don't want your heart to get thicker, because that would decrease the amount of volume of blood that it can pump with each
isn't
pump.
left ventricular hypertrophy something good?
No. Ventricular hypertrophy would not be something that you want. What you want is elasticity of the heart.
Okay.
So elasticity meaning how much can the heart expand and how hard can the heart contract after that expansion. So same thing with a muscle. Elasticity just means being able to stretch and come back to the same position. Not just the ability to stretch, but being able to come back to the same position. So that's what you want with the heart. So when you're just overworking the heart all the time, where you're getting to that zone 5, you're not necessarily going to get those benefits of the heart being able to efficiently pump blood. Because it's just like as if you were going to overtrain your muscles. You know, there's definitely, we talked about this again in the last podcast. You could overtrain your muscles and you're going to not send the correct signal of get stronger, but you're just going to try to heal. Same thing happens with cardio. If you want those benefits that we're talking about of better blood flow, better cardiovascular system, better breathing, all of that stuff, you want to make sure that you're training appropriately. So again, execution is going to be absolute key.
So that benefit of improving the heart elasticity will come in zone 2.
Yes.
And that's 60 to 70% of your heart rate max.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Exactly.
The lower range.
lower range. And you want to
Yeah.
do that. You want to do that for a long period of time. Again, more than 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do want to bring up a topic that our producer, Mr. Titan, just reminded me behind the camera right over there. Something that plagues a lot of younger people nowadays, and it has in the past too, but nowadays it's more, I'd say, widespread, which is the e-cigarettes
Oh, yeah.
slash vape slash, what else do you call that? Stig?
Too old, man. It was back in the day.
Sorry, that was when I was in high school. I guess I'm getting old too. I'm joining this group.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, yeah,
So
everybody's making clouds now.
how that impacts your cardiovascular system in general, mostly your pulmonary system, I would say, but
Yeah.
they obviously they're
No,
correlated.
even the
Yeah.
the
and
cardiovascular
how
system,
that is
absolutely.
absolutely destroying your gains.
So yeah, the just what I was talking about, that elasticity with smoking in general, it doesn't matter what kind of smoking it is. You lose the elasticity not just of the heart, but you also lose the elasticity of your blood vessels. So again, whenever you are going into those higher zones, you need your blood vessels to dilate in order to be able to hold the amount of blood that you need to circulate through your body to get that oxygen, everything that we've been talking about. So losing the ability of those blood vessels to expand is going to hinder your potential to be able to train in high amounts of effort. So even if you feel like you're giving it all of the effort that you can, you're definitely not.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
can tell, you know, that's just one of them. Obviously, I mean, we can talk about the health effects that it could have in general. There's just
Isn't it funny that they're like they're all smoking these e-cigarettes, but they're like, oh, but I don't want to do cardio to lose my gains. You're losing your gains by smoking the e-cigarette, bro. Like, come on, like, do your cardio.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
that's cardio should be the last thing that you should worry about. First, get rid of that little habit that you just developed.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is not gonna help you at all. Maybe I don't know. Doesn't help you with anything.
I don't even understand
It
why
doesn't
people
even
started.
help you get more girls.
No.
I'm sorry. Like,
No.
it
It used to be
doesn't.
cool. It
It
used to be cool in
doesn't.
like the 80s,
It doesn't.
70s,
Well,
you know,
Yeah.
that's back in like the 1920s
when
they
you
had
used to
guys
have to
had,
like hold it from
a
like down
suit
here.
and they like smoked to look cool like James Bond.
Yeah.
Every
no
single girl
longer.
that I asked, hey, do you think that guys that smoke e-cigarettes are cool? No, they just look like they're trying too hard. Exactly. That's
So-
what I thought too.
They went from a big thick Cuban cigar to a little pink stick this big. And I think that's the same level of coolness.
Yeah.
No.
It's pink.
Yeah, but no, definitely, this is definitely going to hurt your potential to have a better cardiovascular system. Strength train, absolutely, because, again, like I said, all of these things are intertwined, so you can't hurt one without hurting the other. Yeah, that's going to have a very, very big detrimental
You know,
effects.
I have a great solution for that.
Don't do it.
throw it in the toilet. Get out of your sight. Out of sight, out of mind. Get over the what's it called? The sweats after. What's it
The
called?
withdrawals.
The withdrawal sweats.
Yeah.
For 1-2
It'll be
weeks.
worth it.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it.
Yeah.
It'll
And
be
I
worth
know
it.
all your friends in high school and college are still doing it. Don't be the 99%. Be the 1% that's like, F this shit.
Yeah.
You know?
So let's talk about that person that we're talking about. The person that is training for building muscle, getting stronger, is listening to this podcast, wants to start adhering to these benefits that we're talking about, and is asking, how can I do cardio without losing the muscle, without losing the progress that I've been building? How can I introduce it?
Well, first, introduce a low intensity modality of cardio. Start with that. That's gonna if you come from a background of doing no cardio, then start with that. You don't want to jump straight to zone 3 or zone 4.
Mhm.
You can. It's just not going to help you very much. But it all depends on where you are with your programming. And so, I'm gonna take this where I'm gonna use powerlifters as an example.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, if you are a powerlifter that's already close to competition and you want to add some cardio, stick with zone 1, zone 2
On your, I'd say mostly on your non-lifting days.
on your non-lifting days.
Yeah.
Zone 1, zone 2, so that you can speed up your recovery, and for zone 2 to continue to send a lot of blood flow to your muscles, and improve that capillary density, things like that. Again, for your recovery. Now, if you're in the off season as a powerlifter, you can add a little bit of zone 3, because zone 3 actually improves the lactic acid build-up capacity that you can hold. So, like, if you are in a phase where you're trying to improve your hypertrophy or growth of muscles, lactic acid is one of the factors as to why you cannot complete that last rep. Why you got that? Lactic acid is that big pump that you have, and so when your body accumulates too much, you cannot push anymore. But if you improve your lactic acid build-up capacity,
Mhm.
or the amount that you can clear out as soon as possible, then you can actually squeeze in a few more reps, which means that you can add more volume, which means that the more volume your body's going to have to adapt towards by building more muscle.
Which means you get stronger.
which
I think
means
there's a word for that. It's like plasma hypertrophy or something like that. But yeah.
Damn. That one right over my head.
It's a very
Yeah.
bodybuilder kind of word too, because it's
Yeah.
exactly that. It's trying to increase the amount of plasma is just fluid that you
Yeah.
can hold within muscles, vessels, all of that stuff. So yeah.
So I don't know where you guys want to take that topic towards, but I just wanted to, I don't know.
No, so
say it
yeah,
like
no.
that.
So
If it-
go
as an example.
go down
you
that
know,
road.
yeah.
Absolutely. So you start off slow.
Yeah.
With not you don't need to introduce a 30-minute, a 1-hour intense cardio session, or this is what I love to do also with clients that really don't like to get on the treadmill or the bike or whatever, is do work capacity sets. So not the traditional cardio technique. An example would be pushing the sled if you have a sled available to you. Pushing the sled for distance, getting your heart rate up, not putting so much weight on it so that it's super slow, but it's rather a faster movement, almost trotting like, and allowing your heart rate to come back down. So almost HIIT based. And we'll explain HIIT in a little bit. Why I think that's so good is because it actually doesn't send that signal of I need to be super efficient, but rather it just sends a signal of I need to be able to recover quickly. So having those rest periods, which is what HIIT does. So I guess we can start explaining HIIT.
No, hold on. I want to give it the answer too.
Okay.
Yeah, because the picture that you painted is pretty much the type of people that I coach.
Okay.
The strength trainees. There's two types of people that I notice whenever you try to implement cardio with them. It's the people that have the all or nothing mentality, and the people that are okay with doing something lighter intensity and more moderate. The people that have the all or nothing mentality, they want to go straight to the high intensity, but also the walls cardio, because they have the mentality of if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Either I'm doing it or I'm not. You know, and that's an issue, because you have to know how to program specifically for that. that person that has the all or nothing mentality, you were way better off including the cardio at the end of a training session, in the form of like multiple low intensity supersets, one after the other. Because then they're going to feel like they're training still. They're not going to have the balls to the walls mentality of I need to run until I can't breathe.
Yeah.
The second person, you can include it in your non-training days, like I explained previously. That's a pretty good strategy because you're already going to go in with the mentality of I'm here to do some light cardio, as opposed to I'm going to go balls to the walls.
Right. Yeah. And I think what the one point that you touched on is important to know. If you are trying to build muscle and you want to introduce cardio, the order of what you do matters in terms of what your body's going to prioritize for that accommodation that we were talking about, the adaptation. So if you do cardio first, that's going to be a louder signal than if you train after. If you train strength training first and then you do your cardio, like Nick is saying, after your training, you still get the benefits from the cardio, but the louder signal will still be that strength signal that you sent first.
And the reason why the signal is louder is because you can put more energy into it in the beginning of the session.
Exactly.
When you're more fresh.
When you're more fresh. Correct.
Yeah.
That's why, that's where bodybuilders have given us very good tips. It's like if you have a lagging muscle, train that muscle in the beginning.
Yeah.
That applies to the systems, by the way, as well.
Right.
Train your weakest system first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, HIIT, high intensity interval training. Very popular.
Very thrown around.
Very thrown around.
Yes.
Right. And I think people just think it's a specific protocol.
And some people, it's like the keto word. It's like some people think it's the best. Some people identify with it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, because obviously there's a lot of research that has come out on it explaining the benefits. So people just do HIIT training and buy HIIT programs.
I'm a HIIT trainee.
Right.
It's like a specific
and
social
go,
group.
Yeah. Do
subset of fitness people.
I think the most popular one is like the Tabata. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Tabata. Right. So the 10 on, 20 on, off for 20.
Yeah, you do 8 sets, I believe.
8 sets, 20 on.
20 seconds on, 10 seconds off.
So I'll explain. So HIIT is going through intervals of really high bouts of effort, of cardiovascular effort most of the time, and then having a period where you're resting. Ideally, this rest period would allow your heart rate to come down so that you can get that benefit of training that elasticity that I was talking about.
Emphasis and keyword ideally.
Ideally. Yes, ideally. Because of what we were talking about, not everybody's recovery is equal. So if you are a trained athlete, 10 seconds might be enough for your heart rate to come down, enough for you to go for another high effort bout.
Trained athlete meaning they have a
good
cardiovascular system.
Exactly.
Which is developed with zone 1, zone 2.
Exactly. If not, then those 10 seconds probably are not going to be enough for your heart rate to come down enough for that next bout to be effective HIIT. Therefore, you're not doing HIIT. Now you're just doing steady state almost, because your heart rate is not coming down and going back up. It is just staying elevated the entire time, and you're not getting those benefits from HIIT training. Now let's talk about what those benefits from HIIT training is, because I do love HIIT. It's just, like I said, it needs to be done properly. A good way of doing HIIT, and this is the way that I like to do it with people that first start off, most people now have some type of smartwatch, or if not, again, you can manually do this. If you're a coach, you probably know how to take heart rate, is to do a high effort bout and time how long it takes you to come down to that zone that Jose is talking about, where you're in recovery again, or where you can actually go back up to a high effort bout. That might be 20 seconds, that might be 30 seconds, that might be a minute, it might be 2 minutes.
Or for a powerlifter, it would be 5 minutes.
Right.
Maybe more.
So there,
I'm just messing with you.
Once you have that time, then you can now program HIIT effectively, because now you know how long you need to rest during that period of time, because obviously you want to keep retesting this, because the point is that your recovery is going to improve, so you're going to recover faster every time that you train this. But that is the way that you should initiate HIIT training, so that you get the benefits from actual HIIT training. You need to allow your heart rate to come down, and that's not going to be the same time for everybody.
By the way, that would be the good measure of progress for HIIT training as well, is how long are you taking to get back into that original zone?
Right.
The less time, the more you're progressing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
That would be you putting more weight on the bar when it comes to your hit training.
Right.
And an added benefit to that, especially if you're trying to maintain muscle, build muscle, or strength, is that when you do train in those high effort bouts, like I was saying, you're not sending a signal that you need to get rid of muscle, because if anything, those high effort bouts could benefit from having more muscle, because you need to be explosive and you're probably still staying in that glycolytic state within those effort bouts, and you're not trying to get in with hit training. This is not what we were talking about earlier, where you want to stay within zone 2. In hit training, you're going to go a little bit beyond that, and you are going to be using glycogen, which is going to require a little bit more explosive power, strength, etc.
Think of a marathon runner against Usain Bolt, the level of muscularity
Exactly.
between both. Yeah.
Exactly. The best example, if people want to look this up at home, is looking at people that do like the Tour de France, their legs, and then track cyclists. Their legs are massive. They look like amateur bodybuilder legs,
Yeah.
the track cyclist legs. And the difference is the track cyclists do really short, high bouts of super, super fast speeds versus Tour de France is, going around like the
Going
whole
around,
country. So it takes quite some time.
Again, alluding to the fast twitch / slow twitch
Right.
debate.
And the execution of
Yeah.
how you're doing it.
Correct. Yeah.
Sending the signal as to how your body adapts to it. So just because you're on a bike doesn't mean that you're going to lose muscle.
Right.
Or just because you're under a barbell doesn't mean that you're going to build it either.
So this is really cool. We are, what Andres just explained, or what we are explaining is that you can get benefits of building muscle and improving your cardiovascular system at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Now the fitness industry, or at least the people that have great knowledge in the fitness industry, have been trying to bust this myth about cardio does not kill your gains. If anything, it just benefits it
Mm-hmm.
for so long. But I don't know why it still exists.
Can I tell you what I think?
Why?
I think people want to reinforce the rhetoric that cardio kills your gains because they're too lazy to do it. So it's easier to say, oh, cardio kills your gains, because if I don't say that, I'm going to have to go out there and do it. And I don't want to do that. That's what I think.
That's a good theory. What do
Yeah.
you think, Andres?
I think that there's a lot of people that have a lot of influence that, like we've said before, have really good genetics and don't need cardio to look the way that they do. Because you also, by the way, you can look really lean without doing any cardio.
The leanness I've been is not doing cardio.
It's not doing cardio.
Same.
Yeah, same with me.
Same.
So, if these people are not preaching cardio, then maybe people, and if anything, I think that they use that thought process of like, oh, if you do cardio, you lose muscle as an excuse because of what Nick is saying. Yeah, they don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a mix of those two things, of like the people that are preaching the fitness, the highest level of influencers that we have. I don't think are preaching the right message. I think that there are people like us that are preaching the right message, but I don't think that those are the people that are influencing the highest level of masses. Yeah, I think it's a combination of those things.
But by the way, and to clarify, the reason why we were the leanest when we were not doing cardio is because of proper nutrition.
Right.
Correct, yeah.
And so even if we had added cardio at that time, we still would have been as lean.
Yeah.
Maybe I probably would have performed better with my powerlifting training that I was doing at the time. Because at the time that I got that leanest is when I competed, because I needed to be at a certain weight class.
Yeah.
But, I was too busy with work and school, and so cardio wasn't a priority. So I just ate proper nutrition and trained, and I got the leanest that I ever.
So
I've
to
ever
make
done.
it clear as day, because we cannot repeat this enough, we have said this before. The only way to burn body fat is to be in a caloric deficit. That means that the calories that you are taking in are less than the calories, like we talked about with metabolism, that your body spends throughout the day.
If you understand that, you understand like half of, like so many people do not understand that one thing.
Yeah. So that's
like
it.
half of what you need to do.
So people think that you need to do cardio to burn body fat. You don't need to do cardio to burn body fat. Cardio helps you burn calories, which is why people think that. What you need to do is create a deficit. But what people will also see when they do a lot of cardio is how much work it takes to not burn that many calories.
Yep.
So you do a very, very hard, let's say 20 minutes of high effort cardio, and it's maybe a quarter of a meal. Not even.
Yep.
Not even. So it's not, it doesn't equate to something that's sustainable, because in order for you to create a deficit through cardio, you would literally have to not get off the treadmill or not get off the bike. You would have to be on the bike the entire day if you wanted to like really create a significant deficit just through cardio.
That's such a great point, because when I do my HIIT training, in 20 minutes I can burn 245 calories, which is a pretty good rate. You're burning more than 10 calories per minute, which is pretty good. But then I go back home and my meal will be like 625 calories. It's not a big meal.
Yeah.
It's normal size plate. So it's a great point that you're making. You're gonna have to be there for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours a day.
And like we talked about earlier,
To
as
burn
you
one
go
meal.
on,
Yeah.
you're going to have to be there for longer and longer to burn
Yeah.
the same amount of calories.
Right.
So it's not just that it's a lot of work just the first time to burn that many calories, but the more you do it, the more you're going to have to do. So it's going to be, 1 hour turns into an hour and a half that you have to do, and turns into 2 hours that you have to do just to burn that same amount of calories
Man,
that you started off
I'll
with.
tell you this. I recently did a powerlifting competition in September, right now, near my birthday.
I was there.
Yeah, they were both. Oh, no, you weren't there.
No, I
Andres
couldn't.
was there. I was not. I was doing way less cardio than I am right now back then. I mostly did it because my diaphragm was weak. Remember that? And I needed my diaphragm to brace better. So it was it zone 2 and 3 that you put me in?
Zone 1.
Zone 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very light cardio. Compared to right now, I'm doing a lot of cardio. I play soccer for about 2 hours twice a week, and I do a 5K a week, all one after the other. So it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Boom, boom, boom.
And that's a great point. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Not
Let me just finish
yeah,
the
yeah,
story.
go ahead.
For my powerlifting competition, I normally, throughout the year, I hover around 190. For my powerlifting competition, I had to cut down to 180. I actually weighed in at 179. It was actually pretty freaking lean. As soon as I started implementing that cardio, and I started eating more, despite me burning more calories per cardio session in soccer and running, I was burning more calories than I would have burned when I was at a lower body weight competing in powerlifting. I still gained weight and I gained fat. When I competed powerlifting, I was probably like 10 to 11% body fat, as opposed to me being currently right now doing a load of cardio, wasting a lot more calories. I'm 192, 193, and I'm probably like 16, 15%. The cardio that I added did not help me lose the fat, just because I ate all that back.
Yes, that's probably why you're getting more hungry now.
Hence,
Which we haven't had any. We'll have a little bit.
I have.
Oh, you have. So what I was going to say.
Go ahead. Sorry.
This is
While I eat a cookie.
I wish I would have known this earlier in my life. But the best way, especially if you don't like doing cardio, to incorporate it into a program is the way that Nick said. Do activities that involve doing cardio. It doesn't have to be going on a treadmill. It doesn't have to be the traditional planned cardio where you go by yourself and you're just doing cardio to train. If you go and play soccer in a league or with your friends, go and pick a basketball game. And
That's me on Saturday.
also,
Having way more fun than I'm having more fun than I have fun in the gym.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I look
Absolutely.
forward more to my soccer days than my gym days.
And you put in more effort because you are having fun and there's an objective to the activity. So it's not just I need to get to 2 miles on the treadmill. It's I need to win this game
I gotta
because
freaking
I
score, bro.
gotta get competitive. So there's a lot more effort being put into it, and yeah, there's it allows you to be more consistent. You look forward to it. You don't dread it. It doesn't feel like it's a training day. So if you want to look for an activity,
It's
if you
social.
really hate, it's social.
The social aspect
Yeah.
of it is huge too.
Absolutely.
Dude, I wouldn't do that. When I run my 5K on the Wednesdays, it's a run club in Weston. If it wasn't for all of them, I would not run.
Yeah.
No chance. Specifically a 5K. Come on.
Yeah.
It's just because it's a big group of people and we all talk before and after. And it's cool. We
Yeah.
all hang out after.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I take my son and I play soccer with him. And I think that's amazing. And
Good.
and he's probably has better cardio than I do.
You want to play soccer?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to play soccer when I was like younger.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. I'll play. I'm done. All right. Good. So,
Are we doing protocols?
yeah. Yeah. Let's do
Protocols.
protocols. Yeah.
Okay.
Beginners that are looking into starting cardiovascular training.
Yeah.
Well, that will be zone 1, zone 2, and steady state the whole time.
Yeah.
So you
And-
want to do it for more than 20 minutes to an hour, but or they can adhere to what Andres was talking about. Doing a hard bout and then letting the heart rate come down. At the end of the day, if you do it for a period of time, 20 or 30, 40 minutes,
Mhm.
and the average is in the beats per minute that you're supposed to be at, you're gonna get the effect that you need.
Yeah.
So
This is what I'll say though. I do want to caveat this with something because we touched on how technical running is.
Mhm.
So if you're a beginner, because we're talking about you've not done cardio before, maybe you're not a runner, maybe you're not proficient at that activity. I want to talk about first why running is so technical, and then what are some alternatives that maybe you could do if you don't want to maybe hire somebody that might, show you how to properly run, because it is a skill. And what tends to happen is people run and maybe are good at running while they're young, and then they hit their 20s and then they stop running, and then maybe they want to take that activity back up in their 30s or 40s, and it's no longer, the patterns are not there,
It's a
the
different
tissues
body.
are not ready, it's
By
a
the time
different
it's
body.
a different body.
Right.
Yeah.
So the reason running is so technical is because it's an impact activity. So every single step that you do, you're going at speed. So it's not like walking where it's not just your body weight, it's your body weight times the force that you're putting into it. So it's quite impactful on your joints. So if you don't have good joints, which by the way, if you do want better joints, hire any of us, because we can definitely make that happen for you. But if your joints are not up to par, then there might be some negative issues. I'm sure that people can relate to this, that have taken up running and even pushed through that pain. I know I have clients that are runners that are frequent ankle sprainers, have chronic knee pain, back pain, hips, all of the above.
Dude,
So-
like I told you before, I went from doing like 0 to no cardio when I was powerlifting to doing cardio 3 times a week.
You're running because you were doing cardio, but
Yeah, I'm
you
straight
started-
up running, like
but now
obviously
you're
like
running.
miles,
Yeah.
multiple miles a week.
Yeah.
I felt my right knee.
Yeah.
And I train my joints like always. I just never trained them for endurance.
Yeah.
And it's different type of.
So this is one of my
Fitness.
favorite ways to, let's say you really want to run. You really want to run and you're aware of what I just said. Uphill running. The reason why uphill running is a good idea is because it puts you in a position where you have to lean forward a little bit more, which are the mechanics that you want to have whenever you're running anyways. And because of the angle of a hill or the treadmill that you're running on, the joints are not going to have as much impact. So that's a good way if you want to really learn how to run and you don't have a coach or you really want to introduce it. It's a safer way than just running on flat ground, running uphill.
your calves are gonna be sore.
Yes. Yes.
Sore.
Yeah. That's also a great way to do HIIT, by the way.
Yeah.
Just run uphill
Yeah.
and then walk down the hill until you're ready to run up that hill at full effort again.
Kate
Yeah.
Bush.
If that is not the case, if you want something that maybe doesn't bother your joints as much, the bike is a great tool and it's pretty accessible in most gyms. I love swimming, if you know how to swim, obviously.
If you don't live in a cold place.
If you don't live
By the
somewhere
way,
super cold,
If you
yeah.
move to Florida.
Maybe find
Actually,
an indoor
don't
pool.
move to Florida. We're full.
So those are some great options. Or, like I said, doing some work capacity sets where you are using weight training for a little bit, more faster pace and trying to get that heart rate up and going through bouts of high effort and then letting your heart rate recover. So those are good ways of introducing training.
So
Cardiovascular
good tools to use would be the sled, the kettlebells,
Farmer walks, yeah,
farmer
like you're saying,
walks,
kettlebells.
the
Yep.
battle ropes.
Mhm.
One of my favorite ways to do cardio is to do those things. It's kettlebell swings, then rest for a certain amount of time and do battle ropes.
And I hate the
rest for a
ropes.
certain amount of time and then
Man.
push the sled, do some jumping squats,
Mhm.
whatever, some movement.
Get your heart rate
Yeah,
up.
Get your heart rate up, let it recover a little bit, and then come back again. and do
Exactly.
it.
I think this would be a good
But
time
that's-
to
yeah.
switch up to the cardio with weights topic.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what
That's exactly what
we're
it is.
talking about. I think that's very popular in like group fitness classes.
Yeah.
Well,
And I wa-
Yeah, but I wanted to
Sorry.
say something about if people are overweight and they want to start doing cardio. That's, if you already are overweight, what should you focus on first if you're going to start doing cardio? Because if you're overweight, running is not going to be the
No.
greatest of ideas. Not even running uphill.
Right.
It's
No.
gonna be the
Yeah. If
greatest
you're
of
overweight,
worse.
You know, like
yeah.
The-
So obviously nutrition. Nutrition has to be
nutrition.
nutrition.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I would even say also add in there strength training, for sure. If you want, but for cardio, I would say maybe the bike or maybe like elliptical, something like that, something that can get you moving, get you to
Right.
those zones that you're gonna be working the heart,
Mm-hmm.
but also cardio with weight, like doing weight training in trying to get the heart rate up. Now, mind you, when you do this, the focus is different. So it's no longer about going heavy and doing this. It's about getting the heart rate up in a safe way.
Just movement.
Movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Even walking.
Mm-hmm. Even walking.
So-
And this is all subjective, by the way, because
Yeah.
cardio, again, is, like I said, just the execution of whatever it is and how much exertion you're putting. Because for somebody that's, let's say, bedridden, cardio, like you're saying, could be walking, just
Mhm.
getting up out of the bed and just going down to the bathroom down the hall and coming back. That will get the heart rate up.
Or even going up the
enough.
stairs. That
Right.
happens to a lot of
A
people.
Yeah.
lot of people.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Going up the stairs to get your heart rate up real quick.
Yeah, too many elevators.
for real, dude.
But yeah, you were saying.
No, I wasn't. I was just gonna start talking about the next topic, which is weight training / cardio with weights, which is very popular among fitness classes. You see Orange Theory, they usually have the cardio part, and then they take you to the weight part. F45 has weight training days and then cardio days.
They're all cardio days.
They're all, that's what I was going to
even
say.
if
No,
it's a
even the
weight
resistance training,
Yeah,
yeah.
so there's
Yeah.
a difference, right? Because between what I said, because I think that these places are portraying like it's strength training. They're saying that this way of training that they're doing is for building muscle. At least that's what F45 does. The strength training days are strength training days, but they're really not, because of exactly what we've been talking about, the execution. If you're doing squats under the bar, but you're doing it for time and with no rest, not allowing that
And by
heart
the way,
rate to
with
come
a
down.
weight that you can literally pick up, put over your back,
Yeah,
and then squat.
right.
That's not
So nowhere
what
near
resistance
your
is,
one
yeah.
rep max, nowhere near any effective ranges.
So then let's clarify this. Why are people actually building muscle in those classes? Because you do see the transformation
Yeah.
between some people. They do build
muscle and
muscle.
fat.
Of
But
course.
why is that?
Of course,
Because they're just so
they don't-
detrained.
Right, because they don't have enough muscle initially to even perform those exercises, period. This would happen, again, this is all relative. If somebody is bedridden, and let's say, God forbid, but if somebody just wakes up from a coma and they've had some muscle loss because they've been bedridden for that whole time, just walking to
Build
the
the muscle.
bathroom would be anabolic. Just taking a few steps would technically send a signal that's strong enough to build some muscle. So building muscle is always subjective and relative to your training level. If your training level is low enough, then almost anything is going to build muscle. So for these people that are coming into these classes, these group training classes they're picking up weights, but essentially they're just doing cardio for the whole hour. The reason that they initially build muscle is because they have no muscle to come into it with. So the body decides, yeah, you know what, we need a little bit of muscle. But very quickly, what they'll realize is that progress halts.
And the only reason the body will want that muscle is to make the task easier to preserve energy.
Exactly.
So it depends what level of fitness they're coming from.
Exactly.
If they're coming from a level of fitness that is lower than the class, then the class will help them build muscle and lose fat. If they're coming from a level of fitness in which they were resistance training more than what the class provides, they're probably going to lose muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like a bodybuilder will not become a better bodybuilder
By doing,
by doing these classes.
Yeah. No.
He will improve his cardiovascular system.
which
Mhm.
could help him if he continues
It's gonna help.
bodybuilding on other days.
Yeah.
But just doing these classes, as for example, as F45, it's not going to build more muscle than they already have.
Yeah.
Or a powerlifter were to walk into a class, they're not going to get their 1 rep max up
Yeah.
Yeah.
either. Because you
Correct.
still have to practice what is actually working for your specific sport.
So I guess that type of training, that modality of training works best for people that don't really have the goal of being the biggest, most muscular, most strongest possible. It's just they do it for fun.
General
and
health.
General health.
General
Yeah.
health.
So I do want to address something, because I think we're going to get a lot of pushback
Mhm.
from people because, for example, I know in the bodybuilding community, especially as you're getting close to competition time, they use cardio a lot to get that extra edge on being lean. And I want to address why that is the way that it is. So we've been talking about why you shouldn't use cardio as a tool for burning body fat. And it's because it's not significant enough to make a big difference for most people. Because if you're at 30% body fat, you're not gonna burn enough calories for it to be significant. However, these people are starving themselves essentially and getting to really low caloric intakes, where adding a little bit of cardio is going to make a difference to create a little bit of a bigger deficit, because they need to keep they're very, very, very meticulous with their macronutrient profiles. So they want to make sure that they're getting enough macronutrients, but they also need to create a bigger deficit. So that's why these people are using, and this is also how you can use cardio if you're in that place where, like, okay, you have all of your nutrition on check, you're doing your strength training, you're already in a deficit, and you just want to you have that beach day coming, that wedding coming that's right around the corner, and you want to get that a little bit more of a deficit that you understand how to create, then you can use cardio as a tool. Again, a tool, but everything else, which is what's going to get you 99% of the results, already needs to be in place in order for that to become the tool that could make a difference.
You know, I've gone over some studies, not recently, but a little bit ago, that the people that do compensate with cardio to create a bigger deficit, specifically when they're very low in body fat and getting closer to, let's say, competition or show day, that the calories that they waste during cardio are offset by their NEAT later on in the same day.
Yeah.
So it actually becomes pointless, because you end up losing less calories anyways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've read, yeah.
You read the studies as well. So it's a little bit counter. It's a little bit it's more of a gray area for me in terms of cardio specifically for that aspect, specifically closer to shoulder.
They also do it for water retention.
I was gonna say that
Right.
they also do this cardio to get rid of water, so that they can look drier.
Yeah.
For the
So
competition.
there is another reason why they do it. But yes, so it would also affect that. So yeah, the water retention, obviously during competition time, you want to be dry
as possible.
Yeah.
thin skin.
That's something I have no idea about.
Yeah. And yeah, that's also what like
Hopefully
combat athletes
soon
will
I
do.
will
and
have an idea about.
yes, coming up. We're gonna start soon. Soonski.
But also like we, a lot of bodybuilders also will use it. The ones that have a lot of knowledge and understand cardiovascular training. They also use it just for general health purposes. Especially if you're taking those anabolic drugs, the cardio is gonna help your heart and lungs to
Stay decent
strong,
while you
decent,
build insane amount of tissue.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
And if you see bodybuilders doing cardio, it's walking. That's what they're doing. Like
Sometimes they go uphill.
sometimes they go uphill, like
Yeah.
they use a Stairmaster, and they're like just chilling, just going out there for an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, and zone 1, zone 2 training of cardiovascular system.
Are we doing? Moving on.
Moving on. Is there anything else?
Oh yeah, sport specific
Okay.
cardio.
Yes. Yes.
What is that? How important it is? What am I supposed to do if I want to do cardio for my own specific sport?
Yeah. So, absolutely, cardio is, again, about the efficiency. So, if you're, maybe people will relate to this one, because I know I've done this in the past, where I used to be a swimmer, actually. In high school, I swam a lot. I was in the Cyprus swim team. I just gave away where we're from. Anyway, I used to be in the swim team, and there were times where I would take time off or off season, and I would still train cardio. I would run and be in pretty good cardiovascular shape. But then when I would get in the pool, 4 laps would be just horrible. And I was completely out of gas, trying to catch my breath. And it's very specific. You start realizing that it's about, again, having that movement efficiency. So it's about that skill. Cardio becomes a skill. You can have a good cardiovascular system, but if you don't have the skill of whatever sport you're training for, then even having a good cardiovascular system might not be enough to sustain what you want to sustain with that sport. So having said that, if you want to do sport-specific cardio, you want to make that cardio be as similar to what you're training for so that it can transfer over and be useful.
100% agree, because that happened to me a few months ago. I got back into playing basketball, and I always, throughout my training for the past, 5-6 years, I do cardio twice a week. But I was doing it, like I said, with the kettlebell swings and the ropes and stuff like that. I went to play basketball, and I was only able to play 2 games. I thought I was in good shape. I was not in shape for basketball at all. Like, my legs were burning. Like, I had so much fast twitch, I guess, fibers from all the powerlifting that I had done throughout my last 5 to 6 years that I would do one quick burst of training and go back to playing defense, and I was so gassed because my body's just used to hitting 1, 3, 4, 5 reps and then take a 2-minute break.
Yeah. You know what also affects that? I think I have never read research on this, but I've thought about it a lot. And anecdotally, with my experience, I see this. Breathing styles make a huge difference. So, for example, with swimming, the way that you're breathing is completely different than if you're running. When you are playing basketball, the way that you're breathing, the rhythm that you're breathing at, is going to be way different than when you're
doing kettlebell swings,
and doing all of those things. So the oxygenation is going to be different, therefore. Like, for example, swimming, you're not taking a breath consistently. You're actually having to wait until you turn your head again to come up for air, so you're getting way less oxygen when you're swimming than when you're running, per se.
Right, and in basketball, as you're crossing the ball over between your legs and moving, you're not going with a perfect pattern. Like, when you do a kettlebell swing, you're like...
Exactly.
Because you're moving with the kettlebell. Yeah. But in basketball, you're like...
Exactly.
And so it's different. So that you can use your core correctly from when you're doing a crossover, you're doing a move. So it's definitely...
I can definitely relate with soccer as well. Same concept.
So.
Maybe a little bit more... a little bit less explosive bouts. It's a little bit more endurance oriented, but I actually had a couple clients of mine that are football players, specifically for the high school that you were referring to earlier, that they hated the endurance training specifically because they didn't think they needed it very much. And I actually agree with them. They were making the players do a lot of what's it called?
100-yard sprints.
No, dude. Like long distance, long distance running. Right. Yeah, for the receivers and for the tackles. And like, sure, I mean, you do need some endurance to be able to play a whole game, but it's just quick bouts of sprinting. You know what I mean?
See, I disagree with coaches running their players to the ground.
Distance.
Yeah. Like, if you play baseball and you play football, there's no point of you running a mile.
Mm-mm. You're never going to run a mile.
You're never going to run a mile in the game.
Nope.
So, like, just making them do that to punish them or just to do it as a warm-up or whatever, like, it's not going to benefit the player. It will be better to make the baseball players run through the bases.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what they're going to do in the game. Run the bases, do a lap, and then get back to the end of the line. Next guy, come and run.
And if you want to do it the way that we were talking about with weights and kind of doing sled style, kettlebell, stuff like that, the way that you would want to do something like this so that it becomes sport specific to what you're alluding to is a lot of sports now obviously do film and they study their film. Time what the average play of your sport is. Let's say that is 30 seconds. Do your sets at that time,
right,
so that it mimics at least the amount of effort and time that you're having to do within your sport.
Right.
So exactly what you're saying. So if your average time for your plays is 30 seconds, which is probably even less for football than that.
For football, it's 6.
Yeah.
6 seconds per play.
There's no reason that you should be doing 30-minute just bouts of cardio. Not that that's not going to give you benefits.
Dude, it's not even bouts, bro. They're literally doing laps for
of just
like consistent endurance laps for like 45
Again,
minutes.
you will get some benefits from that, but it's not that sport-specific training. That
I do want to clarify that, because if you want to help your football players recover, then you do want to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in a practice where you only have a limited amount of time to train the player, why waste time on that?
Exactly.
Just spend
90 minutes three times a week.
Like the player can go do that on his own and do a little bit of cardio on his rest days, rather than in practice. spend the time doing the stuff that the player is going to be doing on the field. And even for the linemen, they make linemen run 100 yards. It's like, why are you making a lineman run 100 yards?
When is the lineman gonna run 100 yards in a game?
Like even the ones
Cast them out.
even the ones that block, like how many times is a running back gonna go 99 yards for a touchdown? Not many times. Maybe once every 2 years or something like that. That's gonna happen. So like, if anything, make the lineman run at most 50 yards.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my opinion.
The 40-yard dashes are pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And again, you want to balance it. Like there could be benefits to doing more steady state every once in a while, but I think that people overuse that, right? Because that's just the easiest you don't have to think about programming when you're doing steady. Yeah, just 10 minutes, and then next time 20 minutes, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But this can be very effective if you program cardio properly to fit. Again, we're talking about cardio sport-specific training. This can be very, very effective, or it can just be sort of effective.
Yeah. So speaking for those time sets for, let's say, the football players, doing the dynamic effort method for, 6-second sets and then take a break and do that for multiple sets with a squat.
Yeah. Explain dynamic
That'd be
effort.
great.
So dynamic effort method is basically explosive training. And so you're trying to move the bar as fast as possible. You're going to use...
Let's give a percentage.
The percentage is going to be, well, it depends what kind of explosiveness you want to train. If it's speed strength, it's going to be in the higher ranges of 70 to 85. If it's explosive strength, it's going to be in the 30 to 40 around
30,
there.
yeah.
You should be doing both
Yeah.
for the most
So
part.
you should be
Yeah.
doing both. But anyways, the whole point is that when you're using 70% of your warm-up max, that's not very heavy weight. So you can move that weight pretty fast. So the point is to move the weight as fast as possible so that you can train your nervous system to activate those muscle fibers in your legs or upper body to be as explosive as possible. So when you sprint, your nervous system knows how to turn on those muscles and you can sprint faster. And so you can do that with squats where you do 12 sets of 2 with 3 reps, 5 reps, which you should be able to do. You should be able to do a rep per second.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take like a 45. How long does it take the time clock for football? Is it like a 45 second? You finish the play and then they give you like 45 seconds for you to make the play call,
Yeah, I think
line yourself up, and then the quarterback will make the call for when to hike the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do 6 seconds, which will be about 5 reps per set, and then rest 45 seconds and then go back on. And
Literally mimicking the style
literally
of play.
mimicking. That's how you do sport-specific cardio for football.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing for if you're a combat athlete. Let's say you're MMA. It's 5-minute rounds. You wouldn't do 5-minute bouts of high effort and then have a minute. I think it's a minute that they get in between rounds and a minute of rest. So very big difference there, right? 6 seconds and 45-second rest to 5 minutes on and 1 minute rest.
Right.
And those are both effective for their respective sports.
MMA has to be one of the toughest sports to train for.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you gotta have it all.
Because it's not just, and actually, okay, we missed this. I'm glad that we talked about this because it's not just the cardiovascular capacity in MMA. It's the mental capacity in MMA. And I think that is also a benefit from cardio because most people hate it and it is tedious. But the fact that it is tedious, not even a physical benefit, but the fact that you're doing something that makes you uncomfortable and you're pushing through it, I strongly believe that just grows you as a person, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. It pushes you to do something that you don't want to do. Like every single time that I'm doing cardio, I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Dude,
it's a mental
yes.
game the whole time. You're like, no, keep going. You still got 25 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And I've only been running or doing something for 5 minutes. But then when you finish, you feel, I don't know, the feeling is just the best feeling. You're like, wow,
Yes.
I accomplished this.
Mhm.
Endorphins, man.
Yeah.
And it's very humbling. Have you ever done a set?
And it transfers to everything else in your life because, like, you will then do your work stuff with a better attitude
Yeah.
or mindset. Yeah.
It's also safer to go to that 100% effort threshold with, let's say, an assault bike, which is now a pretty popular way to do cardio, than it is to do, like, for example, I think the highest effort I've ever given an exercise in my life is probably the assault bike, to the point where I puked afterwards. I'm not saying that that is what people should do. What I'm saying is that it is safer to, when we're talking about that mental capacity to push through difficult things, it is safer to test that mental capacity with something like an assault bike or a skier or something that maybe not like running again if you have like knee issues or things like that. But it's safer to do that with those tools than it is to try to do that on a squat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For that mental aspect, right? Because you should be pushing in the squat to its appropriate limits, but it may be not such a good idea to push the squat past those appropriate limits, because then now you're risking injury. But on a bike, you're no longer risking those same things.
Right, because the bike is not that technical. All you gotta do
No.
is just push
Push.
the bike.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. Past
That's why they
threshold.
use it for the tests at labs and stuff and
Yeah.
in research labs.
Exactly.
It's usually the bike.
Yeah.
It's also there's no impact.
No
I mean,
impact.
it doesn't hurt your joints.
And
like
you could,
it's-
there's no, you're gonna get a cramp. That's like the the worst thing that'll happen. Or you'll puke.
Have you
like I
ever
said.
done a what's it called? The oh man, there's this one specific test that they do in school, Wingate test. Ever done that?
Never
No.
done it. No.
So they pretty much it's to measure lactate levels on your is it lactate levels? Man, I don't remember, but I did it recently in the lab research lab in school, and they make you push the bike until you pretty much pass out. Like it's pretty intense. And oh yeah, I remember it was like it's there's a resistance to it, and then once you can't push anymore, they drop the resistance, they make you go more. It's pretty crazy. I remember
Are we
after
doing drop sets here now?
yeah, dude, that's pretty much so.
That
Yeah,
sounds
so it was pretty crazy. I remember that I was like I hadn't eaten anything that day because it was like the first class. It was like 8 in the morning, and I was one of the first people to go. So I had woken up like not too long ago. Man, I was like laying on the floor after my vision started like shutting down. Like I felt like my stomach. I felt like puking the whole day. It was wild. Dude.
That's exactly what my experience was with the assault bike too, and it was during a 20-calorie challenge that we had with clients, and I did it, and I believe I got like 22 seconds or something. No, is that right? Yeah, so something like maybe 23 or 24 seconds. But you don't feel it during it.
Feel it after.
You feel it after. As soon as you get off that bike, I thought I was gonna go home. I did that after my shift, after I finished training my clients.
Oh,
I
your
had to stay there
blood
for
goes
another
to your
hour.
legs, man.
Yeah, I had to stay at the gym for another hour just to be able to I couldn't drive home. It was just like wait. I walked around thinking that I was not gonna be able to ever catch my breath, like desperately being like, what is going on? So yeah, absolutely, you could definitely push real hard on those bikes.
Since we're talking about our crazy cardio experiences and almost passing out, I once did a CrossFit competition, and what they was called a chipper. And so the chipper is like a bunch of exercises for a lot of reps. So it was like, it was 50 burpees to 40 body weight squats to 30 push-ups to 20 inverted rows to 10 pull-ups, something like that. And then after that, I had to go outside and push a sled for 300 yards. The sled had 90 pounds. Through the 50th yard, my legs were burning so much that I had to stop. But even when I stopped,
It's
they
worse.
kept burning.
Yeah, it's worse. The sled does that.
Yeah, and I don't quit. I'm like, no, I'm finishing this because there's a bunch of people looking at me. I don't want to be that guy that quits. So I keep going. After I finished at 300 yards, my legs were burning. I'm not even kidding you. Like if I was still doing the exercise for the next 10 minutes. And I felt like I was going to puke, and I was losing my vision too. My stomach was cramping. It was the worst experience of training that I've ever had. But that was cool. It was cool, but yeah, like
Good memories, don't repeat them.
Yeah, the burn after 10 minutes was insane. I could not
Yeah.
believe it. Yeah.
How sore are you after that?
Oh, I didn't train for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, terrible.
I didn't want to look at a weight. I had no interest. I was like, you know what? I trained for months for this. I need a little break. Yeah.
Going on that, this is just a pet peeve that I know we all have. This is not for most people out there, but if you're a coach listening to this and you program cardio for your clients and you don't do that cardio yourself, that's a no-no.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta do that cardio. If you're programming it for your clients, the best way to coach them is to experience it yourself
Beforehand.
beforehand. Yes.
I 100% agree. Because, like you said, it's one of our pet peeves.
Yeah.
To tell someone new to do something that you don't do.
Yeah.
Like, how are you supposed to understand what they're going through if you haven't gone through it? So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. All right.
Are we wrapping up?
Wrapping it up.
Cool. Hope you had some value from this. Hope now you're finally motivated to get off your ass after this Christmas holiday season, to burn all the turkey calories that you win. And, sorry, did you? No? Okay. And finally get on the treadmill, on the swimming pool, on a sport activity outside of the gym, and get some cardio done. And if you see Santa during Christmas time, tell him that his resting heart rate is a little bit too high, given the amount of body fat that he has, and he should probably do some cardio. And if he needs any help, there's 3 coaches. Cool.
There we go.
Shout out to, was it Sally? Does she watch this? Does Sally watch this?
Yes.
Shout out to Sally.
Thank you for the cookies.
Shout out to Titan, Mr. Producer. Say thank you, Titan. Thank you, Titan. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Make sure
plug
that
in
you follow us
That's facts.
on our Fitness Uncovered page. So that's fitness.uncovered without the vowels. Correct? Yes. Fitness Uncovered without the vowels, with a period in between.
On Instagram,
On Instagram.
TikTok, and YouTube as well. YouTube Shorts. Well, if you are watching this on YouTube, I guess you can just click it here. But yeah, subscribe on YouTube, follow on IG, follow on TikTok.
Yes.
Um,
And
anything
IG.
else?
And IG,
Go.
lifting for the better, and TikTok, lifting for the better.
MB Performance Training, Instagram, TikTok, MB Performance.
AC_perform strong for both Instagram and TikTok.
Are we prefacing next episode with
Yes.
girls?
Yes.
Next episode, we will have 2 beautiful ladies as guests here. They will be sitting right here with us. We'll be talking about.
Women's health. Everything to do with it.
So if you're a girl listening to this, be excited. Next episode specifically for you. Cool. It should be airing sometime in January.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and please behave during the holidays. Don't, do what you got to do, but keep in mind your fitness.
Doing too many cookies like Nick.
Sick. All right, cheers, y'all. Peace.